The idea that we're exploring is to surrender fear forever, to drop fear. And the first point that we focused on is to become fully aware of the suffering that comes with the symptoms of fear. There's a kids' cartoon called G.I. Joe, and one of their slogans is, "Knowing is half the battle." And what is the other half then? Acting on what we know. Just knowing is not enough, but it is the first part. If I know that I have cancer, I seek an oncologist's help. If I don't know I have cancer, then I don't, but the cancer doesn't go away. When we are fully aware of the symptoms, we naturally shift to the source of our fear. At the surface, what do we claim is the source of our fear? At the surface, we say things like movies. Movies cause us to be afraid. We say things like public speaking. We say things like even our acharyas. What I find amusing is that whenever we sit in a circle, everyone sits over there, nobody sits beside me. You know, when we sit in a circle and I'm saying, why? I shower, I probably shower more than... Then why don't you want to sit beside me? And in another circumstance, Puja Swami Tejramananda was on a train, and a young mother and her son came on the train, and he was misbehaving. So the mother said to her son, "If you don't start behaving, I'm going to send you with him." You know? So that fear kicks in, even of such personalities. They look different, and so on and so forth. So again, at a surface level, we say there's lots of reasons why we're afraid. We're afraid of illness. But we have to search deeper to find out the real source of our fear. These are expressions. This is not the source of fear. And I share that we do this when it comes to cancer. If I have cancer, they'll cut it out and then they'll push it out through chemicals. They won't just do one of them. They'll do both of them. That, okay, the symptom is there, there's blackening on my arm, but they'll go deeper into that. They'll cut it out and then use chemicals. It's not just, okay, put some makeup on your arm and that black mark will go away. So we know how to do it, but we limit it to the body. Now we must go deeper, and that is to the mind. Every living creature that lived, is living, or will live, that includes humans, that includes plants, that includes animals of all categories, have three intrinsic fears. They're programmed with these fears, other than those who are enlightened, those who are awakened. We all have the same fear. And this is actually a beautiful message because it shows us we're all on the same team. If all of us are trying to shoot on that net, doesn't it automatically mean we're on the same team? If we're all programmed to be afraid of that, then that shows that we're all the same. So what are these intrinsic fears? If we go to movies, why are we afraid of movies? It's because of the death that's associated with it. It is not movies that we're afraid of. We fear death. When it comes to public speaking, it is not the speaking that we're afraid of. It is a fear of the unknown. Imagine you said the same things in a mirror, just by yourself. Would you be afraid? You wouldn't. But as soon as there's another person, I'm afraid of the unknown and the judgment that they could be projecting at me. So it is not fear of public speaking, and that is the difference between a social scientist and a scientist of the spirit. They go deeper. It is fear of the unknown. And when it comes to, a personality that is separate than us, like I said about the acharyas, it is fear of sorrow. Sorrow that they'll say this to me or they won't say this to me, they'll tell me to do this, etc., etc. So our three fundamental fears are fear of death, fear of the unknown, and fear of sorrow. Every other fear that we say gets filtered into these three. And this is a heavy statement because it actually teaches us who we are. I'll give you a story to make this more clear. So husband and wife are sleeping, and there's a loud crash downstairs. The wife wakes up. She's always a lighter sleeper. And she shakes her husband and says, "Are you awake?" And he says, "Now I am." Now I am. "Did you hear that crash?" "What crash?" "There's someone in our kitchen downstairs. Go check." And he says, "You heard it. You go check." She says, "What kind of coward are you? If I knew you were so afraid, why would I have married you?" And she's going into him. She's harassing him. But finally says, "I'll get up and I'll go check." He gets out of his bed. He opens his bedroom closet and pulls out a golf club. And now starts walking down these stairs. Put yourself in this position. It's totally dark. And each step he takes, he's tightening his grip on this golf club. His heart is beating faster. His breathing becomes more frantic. And he's walking, walking, walking till he gets to that last step. He can hear movement, but it's totally dark. He's so tense, and he turns on that light. What does he see? His daughter had come home from a party and was getting a bowl of cereal and dropped the milk. So what does he do? He puts his golf club down, goes back upstairs, and sleeps like some of you slept while I was doing guided imagery. See, as long as he thought it was someone different than him, meaning not his family, fear. As soon as he found out that that is his family, all that fear went away. You and I are only afraid of that which is different than us. We are not afraid of ourselves. I'm not afraid of my left hand, but I'm afraid of your left hand, what you'll do with it. But we're not afraid of that which is us. I was reading in Time magazine that racism in American schools is as high as it was when Martin Luther King was alive. Now there's so many reports about women CEOs who are paid 1/3 less than male CEOs. See how hilarious our social systems are? When it comes to one's race, did all of you in this room choose your race? Did you choose your skin color specifically? It's just a variation of skin pigment, that's it. I'm told there's greater differences in genetics between a tall person and a short person than there is between actual races, like an Indian and an Italian as an example. We don't choose our race, then why are we judging each other on that? When it comes to our gender, did we choose our gender? Just a small variation in chromosomes and you have these different genders that play out. And me being a sexist person, I judge based on something that one has no control over. See how superficial that mindset is, that I'm judging someone on something that they don't have control over. And what am I focused on? What separates us, not what unites us, that we're human beings. I say in this room, how many of you are from Brampton, Mississauga, Scarborough, Markham, and we all put our hands up. How many of you are from the GTA? How many of you are from Ontario? See how more hands go up. It's inclusive. I was walking to my car in Niagara Falls, and a girl came up from behind and said, "Do you have any money?" She wasn't mugging me, simply asking. And I said no, and I laughed to myself in my mind because I'm very conditioned in the way I think. I said, people don't ask me for money, I ask people for money. And as she's about to turn away, she says, "You have some paint on your forehead," like I do now. And I said, "It's not paint, it's sandalwood paste. Why are you wearing it?" It's a reminder to me that you and I, with these eyes, with my physical eyes, I see you're a girl and I'm a boy and we're different height and so on. We're different. What separates us? But with my mental eye, this is a reminder to see what unites us, that we're both human beings, that we're both alive for the same reason. We're both one. And she literally folds her hands like this, like a diva, and says, no, we're not married. And she takes off. And I thought, what kind of world will manifest if everyone focuses on such superficial separation? My wife and I, when we got married, the priest forgot to sign the marriage certificate. So technically, at the time, he signed it now. But technically, for those 6 months, we just weren't married in the eyes of the government of Ontario. We weren't married. We never exchanged engagement rings or wedding rings. But does that matter? Does that make someone married or not married? Many people live together, but they're not together, meaning they live in the same home, but there's no closeness that is there. So you and I only fear that which is different than us. That which is the same as us, we do not fear. So the fact that we have these 3 fears is teaching us something great about us. What is the opposite of death? Existence. Or in Sanskrit, we call that Sat. What is the opposite of the unknown? Awareness. In Sanskrit, we call that Chit. What is the opposite of sorrow? Joy. In Sanskrit, we call that Ananda. Sat Chit Ananda, or existence, awareness, joy. All of our fears are actually teaching us who we are. That we believe that we're limited in body, mind, intellect, but our potential is not. And a great example of this. Do you all know who Roger Bannister is? He was the first athlete, first person to run the 4-minute mile. Until then, nobody did it. When he did it, within weeks, many people ran the 4-minute mile. So what happened in those few weeks? Did they find a new shoe? Did they find a new food or a new training? He found his greater potential, and everyone else saw that, hey, we're not different. That means his potential is my potential too. And everyone started doing it. Now so many people, not in this room, but so many people run the 4-minute mile. Because that potential is there. This is an important message because we justify our fears. Again, movies, public speaking, emails, meeting people, etc., as these are intrinsic fears when they're not. There's only 3 intrinsic fears. This is just me endorsing, justifying, me limiting my potential. Our greatest enemy is ourselves. We limit ourselves far more than anyone else limits us. And Pujya Swami Vivekananda has shared, the only atheist is the one who doesn't believe in himself or herself. That's who an atheist is. Because what he's sharing is our potential is that divine that if I don't believe in myself, that shows that I'm an atheist. Every experience of ours is teaching us who we are. And I'm going to bring a movie to make this more clear. How many of you have seen the movie The Matrix? By show of hands. A lot of you haven't, okay. The Matrix, in Sanskrit we call as Maya. That which makes the impossible, possible. And the Matrix is the same way. That which is impossible is made possible there. When everyone is in the Matrix, there's always that tinge of green. Green is that green disease, which is jealousy. In other words, incompleteness. When you come out of the Matrix, there's that clarity is there. So one can know who they actually are. And as long as Neo is in the Matrix, he doesn't know who he is, but he questions. He goes deep, past the symptoms, to the source, etc. And he ends up meeting Morpheus. What does Morpheus mean? The one who has changed, the one who can cause change. In Sanskrit, we call that person a guru. Who is Neo? Neo is a neophyte, an aspirant, a seeker. In Sanskrit, we call that a yatihi, someone who wants to be better. Neo, while he's training with Morpheus, believes he has limits that are not actually there. That's why Morpheus says, don't hit me, don't try to hit me, hit me. Don't limit yourself. Do you think that's air that you're breathing? He can't get from house to house because he feels he's limited. But Morpheus believes he's the one. When you change the word Neo, rearrange the letters, it's the one. And this becomes fully clear to him when he goes to meet the oracle. The oracle in Sanskrit is Ishvara, the one who knows everything. Like the corporation oracle, they know everything too. And in this kitchen, there are other students there, and there's a sign in Latin that says, know thyself. And as long as Neo doesn't know himself, limits. Once he knows his potential, those limits go away. And this is strongly shown at the end of the movie when those agents, which are the gunas, which are expressions of limitation, they're shooting at him, and all he does is put his hand up. You know what this is called in Sanskrit? People are saying high five. Is that what it's called? Abhaya mudra. Abhaya means without fear. It is the expression of fearlessness, that I'm providing fearlessness. So Neo does the same thing. And when he looks back at the agents and the bullets, what does he see? It's just code that's flowing down the screen. He sees that he, the bullets, and the agents are all one. So what is there to be afraid of? Nothing. So every experience of ours is teaching that we cannot be limited by death. We cannot be limited by the unknown. We cannot be limited by sorrow. Our potential is past all of this. But this will only become a reality when we reflect. One of my teachers had shared, we can go a few minutes without air, a few days without water, a few weeks without food, and forever without reflecting. Just do. Don't think about what you're doing, just do. This is what separated Honda and some of our American car companies. Honda always had a large R&D budget. The American car companies did not. They were focused on execution. Look what happened. You and I have to do R&D in our lives, otherwise that fear is not going to go away. But with research and development, like you're all doing, the fact that so many people here on Saturday morning, when I read the poster said 9 a.m., I was like, oh, I don't know if I don't know if I can make it at 9 a.m., let alone anyone else. And here you all are, at research and development. Einstein has shared, to do the same action but expect a different result is insanity. But we're dreaming that one day when I grow up, I'm just going to be less afraid. But isn't it that we're becoming more afraid as we grow up? With great power comes great responsibility. But people are afraid of responsibility, but they're going to be there. That fear becomes more tangible, not less tangible. We shift to our second practice.